lot of recruiting news to talk about here on today's Ohio State Football Report. Billy Beebe with you, excited to be talking Ohio State football. We begin with Jalen Brewster, who we discussed right around a month ago. Ohio State was mentioned by him at a camp. Larry Johnson, that connection, feeling like Ohio State does a really good job getting players to the next level. That was the comment by Jalen Brewster. All of a sudden, we'd like to put him on your radar as fans and on the show here. Next thing you know, about a month later, Texas Tech, their defensive line coach has left. They've not found a new one, and it was asked of Brewster, are you still in good standing? Are you still solid with Texas Tech? And crazy enough, his response was no. Simply put, are you still solid with Texas Tech? He said no. So crazy how things in recruiting in just 1 month can change for a 5-star defense lineman, that it kind of goes from the Buckeyes aren't done, the Buckeyes won't go away, they want to hang in there, and you kind of wait around for the person to dump their girlfriend or boyfriend, let him go and move on, right? You try and make that move after, and right now it seems like Brewster and Texas Tech are kind of on the out. So let's pull some momentum. Let's move this thing forward. Hit that thumbs up button right now to try and help out. Get Jalen Brewster to Ohio State, to Columbus. You hit that thumbs up button right now. Can help kind of make that happen. We like to do that on the show. You guys know how we do it. Let's get Jalen Brewster to Columbus by doing that right now. And look, this is a guy you want in Columbus. He's a 5-star upfront guy. Clearly, he has impressed Larry Johnson. I would love to pair him and DJ Jacobs, the 5-star edge the Buckeyes have already locked down. Those two together would be awesome. The 2027 class is off to a hot start. Jalen Brewster, who the Buckeyes have slowly made up ground, not given up, hung in there, want to make him a Buckeye. Because, you look at these rankings, right? Number 1 defensive lineman, top 10 recruit in that 2027 class, and a top-notch player in the state of Texas, which actually, you look at it, and that's one of the reasons these other teams are in the mix, right? Texas Tech is in the mix from the beginning. Ohio State's getting involved. Lane Kiffin, possible of anything right now. And then the 2 teams that played in the national title. And again, I got to give a little more respect at this point in time to Indiana. I really just did not really consider Indiana any sort of player in all this, really, in the world of recruiting and everything with Ohio State and whatever else. But they are in it now. Miami's in it. And again, it's still 85-ish%, for Jalen Brewster, but the Buckeyes in it with the best of them to try and snag the 5-star defensive lineman. What is your confidence level in Ohio State football recruiting? Whether it be guys like Larry Johnson, James Laurinaitis, Ryan Day out on the road trying to get recruits. Whether it be the money the Buckeyes are managing. What is your confidence level in Ohio State recruiting? Scale it for us down in the comment section, 1 to 10. Just got to give a shout out to Coach Johnson. You hear me mention him over and over and over again. He's locked in with this situation. He has done a really great job as a part of this class. Already got DJ Jacobs, and then just hasn't given up on Brewster, right? And the last time we checked in on the Jalen Brewster situation, he was saying Larry Johnson keeps getting guys to the pros. He's absolutely worth keying in with, and I want to get to the pros, and if that's what Larry Johnson does, then it would be a great mix. And we listed all the guys over the past 5-ish years the Buckeyes have been sending the pros: defensive tackle, defensive ends, edge rushers, elite talent over and over again, all through the rounds, going to the NFL. Larry Johnson has done a really, really great job. I also think he's got a new life in him. I think he was not getting along in some past defensive coordinator happenings, with Ohio State. And I think, with Jim Knowles, I think it's worked out well, and he's in a happier place. As far as the recruiting goes with guys like Jalen Brewster, I am a why not the Buckeyes guy right now. Any recruit, any star, any percentage the Buckeyes are or aren't going to get this guy, that guy, the other guy, why not? They absolutely could. Sometimes it's a money thing. A guy like David Gabriel Georges, where they are pressing for the money, going for the money. Then it's guys like Jalen Brewster. I don't think they can offer him the most money. We'll talk about Brock Williams' money later. But they have a culture fit. They have good coaches. They have good recruiting. That's why it absolutely should work out for Ohio State in these situations. All right, we'll get to the other guys in just a second, but do want to let you know the big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than PrizePicks, where it always feels good to be right. Football season, believe it or not, it's coming to an end here, guys. So if it's your last chance to get into the football action before the season comes to a close, what you want to do is close out the season right with PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. I think it's always tough when the fantasy season comes to an end. But the good thing with PrizePicks, I won my league, but I want the excitement to continue. I want to get back at it with the lineups and whatnot. The good thing with PrizePicks is that's basically what it is, fantasy lineups. Pick your player, pick their stat projection, more or less, and you're ready to go. And right now, this week PrizePicks has a special max discount for the big game live on the app now. Drake May needs just one passing yard for the max discount to win. You just add another player to your lineup with the max discount, and if your picks hits, you could cash in. So I'm pairing the Drake May max discount with Jackson Smith and Jigba more receiving yards at, I believe it's 93.5. So all you need is that more on the Drake May half passing yard one, and then Jackson Smith and Jigba at a more than 93.5 passing yards, and you're cashing in at that point. On PrizePicks, how you play is up to you. So if you want flexibility, you choose Flex Play, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, you go for the Power Play. No matter how you play, PrizePicks is a great way to put your takes to the test. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, now we will talk about Brock Williams, the latest with the 4-star tight end. I don't consider this crazy bad news or anything, but the Buckeyes are notably losing ground on Brock Williams, a guy that has been locked in, so to speak, with Ohio State for a while now. Keenan Bailey has really put in the effort with this recruitment. However, we're starting to hear those rumblings, right, that Brock Williams is not locked in, or however you want to put it, with Ohio State. Those other schools are starting to creep up a little bit. And this is one of the higher recruited tight ends that Ohio State has had in a while. That is one of the reasons I'm keeping a close eye on this one. I just think the Buckeyes don't always really, really push at the tight end position. So to see them go for a guy like Brock Williams, I think it matters, right? I think that is something that should be noted, matters, and is going to continue to matter when the Buckeyes either get Williams or don't get Williams. What they're looking at tight end-wise is very, very important. So you got a 4-star, big in Illinois, number 2 tight end in this class, and the teams in the mix right now, the guys Ohio State are battling it out with to get Brock Williams, so to speak. These are the big boys, right? These are the big names that you're usually kind of in it with right now, recruiting-wise, to get Brock Williams. You got Ohio State, Georgia, Texas. Ohio State's really gone at it with the SEC for a lot of these players this year specifically, so that's been interesting. Jeremy Birmingham, Letterman Row, giving some insight into this recruitment right now, noting the big thing, and you'll see some of the same verbiage that I talked about as far as like the big boys. In the old days of recruiting, Williams likely would have been committed to Ohio State right now. That's the case, even though the other schools, Texas and Georgia, were big boys too. He's just kind of emphasizing Ohio State probably would have had that commitment at this point in time. But those big boys, especially Texas, play the NIL game differently than the Buckeyes do. The rumored offer from the Longhorns is something that, simply put, Ohio State is not likely to match. Very interesting. Again, Ohio State, we have heard this, that they've got their own style right now. They have their own style on the recruiting trail with these guys. They have to make some tough decisions, and they are continuing to do so. Where I'm at with this, I say this with a lot of recruits. You got to get it done. You got to lock this guy up. You got to make it happen. The thing for me right now with Brock Williams, where we're at with Brock Williams, the tight end position at Ohio State has gained a ton of value recently. A ton of value. That makes these recruitments way, way, way more important, right, than the years past. I mean, Ohio State, like I said, hasn't put a gigantic emphasis on tight end recruiting necessarily. In the past, they've gotten some good recruits. They've developed some good tight ends after they've gotten here. But the big thing for me is, what we're seeing at the tight end position lately is a lot from Ohio State. They've been putting a lot into that position. They've been giving that position a lot of responsibility. Now you bring in Arthur Smith, who's a tight end-centered coach. You have to get good tight ends in the building, and tight ends will need to be more important during the recruitment process. If you want more Ohio State recruiting videos, let us know by hitting that sub button right now. We've had a lot lately because the Buckeyes have been very, very busy. But hey, when you guys hit that sub button on related recruiting videos, we like to understand that, take that, and move forward. So hit that sub button right now. Got an update from Maxwell Hiller today, and we were actually just talking Maxwell Hiller with you guys. I think it was just a few days ago, actually. We were talking about the Buckeyes getting in the fold, and again, good example here of just how quickly recruiting can move. We were talking Maxwell Hiller the other day. We were talking how the Buckeyes getting in the mix for Maxwell Hiller, and then today we learned they are one of the 4 schools in the mix for Maxwell Hiller. It comes down to Florida, Georgia, it's Florida, Tennessee, Alabama, and Ohio State in that mix right now for Maxwell Hiller. So an interesting group. I'm kind of surprised we don't see Georgia in this little run of teams right now. I thought that was kind of a little interesting that they weren't involved, but definitely, once again, the Buckeyes going at it with the SEC schools. We also learned today he's got visits scheduled with all 3 of those schools, not Ohio State yet. I don't think that's the biggest deal in the world, but he's not scheduled with the Buckeyes yet. He did just do, I believe it was an unofficial visit or whatever it was. He was in Columbus, but then now he's lining up those more official visits. And he also noted to On3 in an On3 article noting that Florida and Alabama are neck and neck or tied right now. And, I don't know if that's necessarily a situation where you say those guys are ahead of the other 2 and they're tied, or they're just tied and he's looking at the other schools. Kind of a weird situation. You do like what Hiller said after his time at Ohio State this past weekend. The stability of Ohio State is really good. I don't see any of those coaches leaving for a couple years based on some of the meetings I had with them over the past couple of days. When I was there, everything popped for me. And that's definitely something you'd like to hear, that everything popped for Maxwell Hiller on his visit to Ohio State, because sometimes these visits, they're just getting them out of the way, or they're, if there's no game, they're not as taking as much from it, or however you want to put it. But make your prediction now to end the show. Where will Maxwell Hiller go? Who will land Maxwell Hiller? Type O for Ohio State, F for Florida, T for Tennessee, or A for Alabama.